In 1991, as an ex-employee of Waggs as a costing clerk, I approached the new owners, Mr. Bohm and his wife, to see if I could go into the service station and area and the garage to make a sort of semi-documentary of Waggs' 100 years of workmanship and cars. It appears in 1891 Thomas Wagg purchased a carriage factory of Ross and Co., trading as the Masterton coach factory. The showroom portion faced onto the Queen Street, and it remained and was used until this site was sold to Woolworths in 1983. But this is now called Countdown. It is noted that the firm was originally called Thomas Wagg & Co., but later it was then called Thomas Wagg & Co. Limited. With the introduction of motor vehicles, Thomas Wagg faced the uneventful and set about the sale and servicing of these vehicles. Separate motor business premises were set up in the building on the north side of the old fire station. The first vehicles sold were Cadillacs and later Buicks, followed by Standard, Dions, Grey, Leylands and Dennis trucks. In the early days of the condition of sale was to teach the buyer and his family to drive, and many hair-raising stories were told of how the learner drivers attempting to stop their vehicles by calling out "Whoa!" just like they would do when they were driving horses, and even to the extent of pulling and steering wheel came off in their hands. The roads were narrow and boggy in the winter, and many a salesman ended up in the ditch or over a bank in the hands of these new car owners. In 1926, a kit-set steel and glass building was imported from the USA. This building was a purpose-built service station and was very modern at the time. This was on the corner of Queen Street and Workshop Road, and remained in use until a modern new service station was built on the site in 1960. This new service station was to become a solely BP outlet. Going back to the mid-30s, a new company, Central Motors Limited, was set up with Humber franchise from Todd Motors. Later in 1937, with the introduction by General Motors of Opel cars, Central Motors was forced to close and the premises used as a skating rink before being sold to Merle Wilson's. Guy Wagg, with his skills as a bodybuilder, was able to obtain a great deal of work from the government, converting trucks into suitable transport vehicles for the armed forces. In the early years, they had parades down the main street, and included were the garage and plus cars that Waggs sold, even to the old carriages as well. This footage of film was lent to me by a person in Masterton just to show one of the early parades. This parade, I think, was taken in about the 1950s. Waggs became very successful selling Holdens for GM, and the company did very well until they amalgamated with Harkham's, which was behind in Dixon Street, behind Waggs' repair shop. They amalgamated. Harkham's became the dealer for Vivas, and with the Holdens as well being at Waggs, that they were told by GM they had to join forces. And so what happened was Waggs moved across to Harkham's, and as I said at the beginning, the property was sold to Woolworths. There in the background is the service station, and I noticed that they were selling Shell at the time in the 1950s. But as I said again, they turned over to BP only. This is some scenes of the main street of Queen Street, and the shops will be very noticeable, and the names will come back to people that lived in Masterton for a long time. Nemo's Pianos. The old post office. This before it was pulled down and converted into the new one. There must have been some celebration on the particular time. Hannah's shoe shop when these film was taken. Going towards the banks of New Zealand. Jacobs the hairdressers. I think this is where the banks were. The Bank of New Zealand was in the middle there. The old post office again. And there's the corner where the gas station was selling Shell, as I say, at the time, then converted to BP. And there's the BP sign up now. Here inside the workshop, this is the part that I remember being a costing clerk. I used to be in an office right at the end here with Jim McGill. He was the service manager. Here we are showing the 75 years of service of Thomas Wagg & Co. from 1890 to 1965. There is the back of the Waggs, and that used to be the parks for all the cars that were coming in for services and having repairs. Here we are again inside the workshop. There on the left is Peter Allen. He used to be one of the mechanics, and he ended up with Allen's Coach Lines. Here's a very good picture of all the staff at the time. Mechanics and people from the office. Jim McGill there sat down on the right hand side, and the third one in on the left is Johnny Phibbs. And here's the bays that they used to do the washing and boat repairs. They used to do a lot of marine work, speedboats and whatever you, and engines. A fellow Doug Wishart used to be the main mechanic for that. Many a time there was a car rally going past in Masterton, and of course I always had my movie camera with me. So I used to go out and take some shots, and as you can see across the road was Harkham's, which became Waggs as well. One year while I worked there, the New Zealand contests came to Masterton, and they were invited to go around with all the new little Vivas being driven by the salespeople, not only to promote them, but also to promote the girls and the cars that they were being driven in. There's Jim Wagg. He was the chief accountant at Wagg and Harkham's. They were now amalgamated. Guy Wagg. Guy, while he was still alive, had a copy of this, and he was supposed to. There's Gordon Worsley, the chief, one of the chief car salesmen. Going back to Guy Wagg, while he was alive, he was supposed to put the narration on this, but unfortunately he passed away, and it never got done. I wonder what's happened to all these young ladies now. Probably married and got kids behind them, or the kids even growing up. In 1991, it's a few years ago. In there is Laurie Jackson. He used to be the manager of Harkham's. Jim Wagg again. I think with this film I'll have to find a list of the ex-employees and give it to the person, whoever gets this DVD, so it gives them an idea who the people were, because I can't remember their names. That's Brian Coleman on the left with Dutchy Holland. Brian Coleman was one of the accountants, and Dutchy Holland, of course, was a salesman at Waggs. There was a good friend of mine named Johnny Peck. Him and Dutchy Holland used to be on the sales side. Great fun to work with those two. They're still using the service station and the garage for Wagg and Harkham's until it was pulled down, and now we've gone into Woolworths. Now countdown. Waggs, of course, were taken over by the Bourne family, and it became Waggs only. And as I say, I was allowed to go the week they were having their centennial to be able to do some video and to catch up with the way the building was now. This is Harcombe's petrol station or service station there. They went to BP2. There's Mr. Baum working out the books. And there's his wife Anne. Unfortunately, Anne died a few years later with cancer, and it was unfortunate. She was such a lovely person too. Here's some of the old rigs that they used to make at Waggs and they had them on display in the Waggs showroom. Even old cars they managed to get from all over just to put them on display. One of the old petrol pumps with the old hand pump, which you had to push it backwards and forwards to get the fuel out from the big tanks. Cars used to be exported from Australia before Holden made their own cars in the Hutt Valley. There's Laurie Jackson again. And of course, when they had A&P shows in the park or in the place down at Solway, they used to have a big display of all the cars they were selling. Utilities, trucks, boats, even caravans. Doug Wishart in the stores getting parts, I guess, for some marine engine. Some of the people, Esme, and there's a few of the mechanics there working on their cars. Guy Wagg looks like they're cutting a cake either for a birthday or something. I understand that this is some of the Waggs themselves, the owners of complete what they used to be. Then the Waggs had their own netball team. These are the type of trucks that they would sell or go into the heavy duty. And these were a lot of photographs that were in Waggs around the walls when I got there. So I took the liberty of videotaping some of the things they used to sell. Here's the time and wages book, giving the amount of wages that some of them got paid. Somebody bought a buggy. Here's a line of mechanics. On the left, Jim McGill in his white overalls or his white smock. And these are some of the ads they used to have. One of the salesmen, Tony Matthews, he became Graham Tope, and on the tyres is Graham Croton. Len Taplin, another mechanic whose name escapes me for the moment. They even had a young lady who became a very good mechanic. John Parsons again, making sure pre-delivery is done. Then during the celebrations, they brought a couple of horse-drawn vehicles, and they were giving rides around Masterton. And so now I'll go over to live sound to be able to let you carry on and see it as I took it. Landau horse-drawn vehicle, 1907.
Over on Woolworth. Is that right? No, before that, there is not.
He's glad to us, enjoying himself with the previous car owners.
These ladies tell me they've been Waggs customers for
yes,
quite a
for
while.
many, many years.
Oh, no, I'm the oldest, but I'm certainly not the most profitable. Whoa.
Brett White is very keen on horses and done a bit of driving.
Molly and Joy. Coming soon? You tomorrow. No, you won't. Good evening. Good afternoon.
You've been early, aren't you?
Have a look I did it. Hey, hop in, girl. Hop in.
My daughter sees us like you were
What did I do there? No, you're coming through now, Alan. You've been talked into it.
They might like the hood down.
Whoa! Well, we'll give them a turn with it up, and then we'll pull the hood down a little way. How's that? Whoa.
Get Alan to put his head out. Put your head out, quick, Alan.
Looks like he's riding shotgun, this guy.
We won't. You'll care for them. Let's go.
This is John. Seeing what, Sophie? Then you come to the party where all the ex-employees were asked to come out and enjoy the evening. There were so many ex-employees that there were dozens and dozens around. And they all had a name tag. Wish I could see the name tag now to see how many people were. John Parsons was in the white shirt. There was a couple of shots before him, John Parsons there, one of the first to arrive for the little bit of a party they put in the service station. That's Chick Ferguson. I have to think back to a lot of these names, and a lot of people at Harkin I never knew anyway. So it's just and I'm ad-libbing this. So there's Tony Matthews up there, the fellow with his hands in his pockets. Chick Ferguson again. The man with the white beard was my father-in-law. That was Mr. Burton. Mike Burton used to be the man sat behind me doing the pay accounts. In fact, I married his daughter. He taught me one day, he said, how about doing a film with my daughter? Oh, well, went from there and I got married. There's Dutchy Holland, talking to John Parsons. In the background, in the white hair, just in the background, you see him, that's Johnny Peck. Robin McLeod. Chick again, talking to one of the young ladies out in the office. In the background is Doug Wishart, talking to Johnny Phibbs. There's Johnny Peck again. Poor old Johnny died a couple of years ago. He was a great mate. Johnny Phibbs again. Talking to Tony Matthews. Can't think of that young lady's name at all. Oh, Dutchy used to always give me a bad time. Ted Parris, that's his father. Al Murray, and Sonia Torwick. She used to work in the office with Jim McGill next to me. Her husband unfortunately died of cancer too. Looks like somebody's put the name on the back of Chick to see who he is. Marcus Percy. Johnny Peck talking to my father-in-law. The ladies in the kitchen getting all the sandwiches prepared. He now works at the town hall. He, I understand, was in the parks. Marcus Percy again, that's his wife in the foreground here. In red is Mrs. Wagg, Mrs. Guy Wagg. Guy Wagg himself. Always a popular man, he was a lovely guy to work for. David Brinkley, no good. He did have his own electrical place up in Bentley Street. A lot of these people that had their jobs in Waggs went into their own business in the following years. Nairi. Mr. Taplin again. His son became a sergeant in the police in Masterton. Ray Morris on the left.
There's no barman, I'm just going to
He ended up with his own taxi in Masterton. Jim Waggs going to Gordon Worsley. I think that guy used to work in the parks. Oh, Stan and his wife Molly Pearson. They were good sorts, they were. Oh, Molly always good for a laugh and everything. Roger Brader, he ended up owning his own car yard. Mrs. Guy Wagg. Yes, I bet the little stories told that night. And the Wagg daughters. Oh, I think she's talking to her, Mrs. McEwen. Alan Turton in the background. It was only, I think, a couple of years ago since he passed away.
He left me in Greytown to drive a car home, and we stayed in the pub most of the afternoon, and I was drunk.
and he did the old yodel job, you know, spraying.
Never did get the punchline. Like I said before, there's plenty of good stories told and some bad ones and some funny experiences. That fellow was Alan, worked in the workshop. Alan Gray, that's right. Well, Gavin, he has his, used to be in the workshop, ended up driving his own little taxis around town. Paul Snellgrove in the middle with the leather jacket on with Wally Shiska. And of course, as I said before, all these people have moved on, and especially Wally, he moved on, he passed away a few years ago. Delightful fellow, always had a laugh and a joke with him. Even though Alan Turton retired from Waggs, he used to still do a lot of mechanical work around town. Fella Smith. That was Trevor Smith, that's right. You must forgive me in a way, because this is all ad-libbing. And as I said before, there's a lot of people I've forgotten, and the names are terrible to remember. Not terrible to remember, it's just I can't remember them. Now, there were so many people there, they had to go into the back workshop, and they were greeted by Alan Horn, and a big photograph was taken by Peter Nicolaisen, who remembers. I'm sure Guy Waggs would have done a better job than I've done, because he knew everything back to front, all about the business and how it carried on and how they amalgamated.
Anyway, I'm Alan Bowe. I'm delighted to be here and to join with you, just as one of the new boys. Actually, I'd really like to meet the sports girl in Nigel Broadhurst's team that left her knickers on the floor. Come and see me later. Anne and I and the current Waggs team are delighted to host you tonight during these centenary celebrations. It's been a great event. My association, as I say, has only been with 4 years, and we've been very proud to be involved and very proud of the heritage of the company. We've had a couple of functions over the past few nights for mainly our clients, VIPs, and that's been a most enjoyable experience. I've heard lots of stories, some of them I can't repeat, but I think I'll probably hear a lot more tonight. It's been a fun thing getting together. We got started to get organised in the early part of 1990, and we were all set to go in October 1990, and it wasn't until very close to the event that we found that that really wasn't the date. It was October 1991 was the centenary. However, it put us in good stead, and we could get hold of a lot of people and get together and get things moving. We've got a staff here of the current staff that has been with the company for a long time. There's a lot of history there too. And I'm looking through here and see Stan Smith with 29 years, and Ernie with 28 years, and Tony with 26 years. And then just looking through some of those that have been joined us tonight, and I find here, I think, in my calculation anyway, the oldest couple is Stan and Molly Pearson. Where are you, Stan and Molly? And as far as I know, the oldest ex-employee is Murray Paris. Where are you, Murray? Congratulations. And
Rolly Warrington, Thomas Waggs.
Oh, Rolly. Yeah, great. And Trish, where are you, Trish Williams? Trish?
She's in the front there.
Oh, good. Trish, happy birthday for tomorrow. Anyway, there's a couple of things. One of the things I'd like to just say this public, and those of you that have seen the centenary publication that the Times Age put out, which was very, very good, may have noticed that we had a special thanks to Guy Waggs for the time and effort that he put into it. And I'd just really like to express it here tonight again for those of you that were from out of town, because Guy's worked very, very hard towards this. We're very, very helpful in providing information. He wrote a very lengthy editorial within the supplement. He's worked with Peter tirelessly with the Landau carriage, and it's been great. Thank you very, very much, Guy, for that. And those of you that are from out of town that have not seen the supplement, there are copies of it up in the cafeteria. We'd be delighted if you'd like to take one away with you tonight. Now, it's probably opportune to just say a couple of things about this weekend's program, because we still have a fairly full couple of days. Tomorrow at 12 noon, we have a street parade through the city for the retail centre of Masterton, and it starts at 12 o'clock. We've got a huge range of vehicles, both early ones, vintage ones, early Holdens and Vauxhalls, marching girls, bands, etc. And so that might be really well worth having a look at. On Sunday at 10 p.m. is the start of the vintage car rally. It leads actually from here, so if you want to see a good collection of vintage cars, I understand that the entries are in excess of 50. It's open actually to all vintage cars, plus any early GM vehicles. So if there's anyone in those categories that has an engine and would like to, I'm sure that they could be any GM vehicle could fit into that parade. Into that rally. It starts at 10 o'clock, so you need to be here a little bit earlier. And certainly if you come there at that stage and see your cars, then they return here about 3:30, between 3:30 and 4:30. Then at 4:30 we have a prize giving. And so if you want to come back and have a cup of coffee or just have a wander around and see some of the things in the daylight and bring your partners, we'd be delighted to see you. Please feel very welcome to do that. And that's the coming. Thank you very much.